guys, welcome to part 2 of emotional boundaries. Since again I only have an allotted period of time for each video, I'm just gonna hop right into it. So when it comes to taking control of our situation and our lives and learning to say no and learning to put our foot down and say something when we need or want something is really hard. So if you're anything like me and a lot of other people, you've probably learned to take some sort of action to get what you need without having to say no. So in these next few questions, the next two are kind of like example scenarios. We'll kind of be diving into saying no and how to go about a situation without having to say no, because let's be honest, learning to say no is really hard for a lot of people, and I think it's a strength, and I think a lot of people take it for granted and don't feel it's a strength because it comes easier to some than others. And just don't let that get you down, because saying no for a lot of people, including myself, is really hard. And no, not saying no does not mean you want something. If you don't explicitly say yes or no, then whoever is on the other part, is the other half of that conversation, should automatically assume it's a no. So don't feel bad if you didn't say no directly to a certain situation or anything, because it's hard, and it's, whatever the outcome may have been, if they did something that you didn't want, that's not on you. If you didn't explicitly say yes or no, that's on them. But anyway, I digress. So I think the best thing to do in this whole situation is probably, I would have tried to confide in like a really trusting friend or group of friends, or maybe even family, to kind of help give me the courage to get out of the situation, as well as help me get out of the situation and provide a safe haven for me to go to escape the situation. Because I've been in an abusive relationship before, and I've been in scenarios where I didn't feel safe, or I didn't feel like my word meant anything, and my primary concern was going to someplace safe that had my best interests in mind, and and going to people who I can confide in and trust, and who would be there for me even after the situation was over. Because especially if something's traumatic, even if nothing's happening to you right now, a lot of that stuff can hold on to you, and it takes time to get over. So even once the situation is over, it's not over. I think in this scenario, because I think again, a lot of people choose to make excuses, and I think people feel bad when they do make an excuse. But one thing I want to say is, even if it's a situation like this, even if you wanted to end it with somebody, even if the other person wasn't making you uncomfortable and you just weren't ready for the relationship, there's nothing wrong with being like, hey, work is really picking up right now and I think I should be focusing on that. Or there's a lot going on in my life right now and I really should be focusing on that. I think that's a legitimate excuse. And even if it's not the exact excuse, if you're not ready to say something, or you don't know how to say something, say whatever you can to the best of your ability. I would probably say something like, work is really picking up, or school is really picking up, and I feel like I should be focusing on that right now. Or me, I think a lot of people make up excuses and feel bad about it and don't want to have to make up excuses. And I think in a lot of situations we shouldn't. But, it all depends on the situation. If this is an abusive situation, then they don't deserve a legitimate explanation. You don't owe them anything. So making up an excuse, being like, I need to focus on something else right now, and I can't do this anymore, that's fine. But I think if it's a healthy situation or a fairly healthy relationship, and you just don't want to, you just aren't in the right mindset, or you aren't ready for it, whether it be a friendship or a family member or a boyfriend or a girlfriend or what have you, it all depends on the specific situation. Just tell the truth. Just be like, hey, I'm not really ready for this right now, or I have a lot going on right now and I can't focus on this. Because even if your explanation is more detailed than that, it's technically not a lie. Because most of the time, again, if this is a healthy situation and you're just not in the right mindset or the right place, don't be afraid to say that. Even, if you don't want to go in so much detail, then just say, I need to be focusing on me right now. Or again, I need to be focusing on work or school or whatever you feel like you need to be focusing on. I personally, not every situation, but a lot of situations, I'm really not afraid to say no anymore. But when I am, I would just, I say that I'm busy. Or when I remember, when I was younger, if you're under 18, any of my viewers, I would just tell somebody my parents weren't comfortable with the situation. Or I would say things like, I have more important things like school to focus on. And again, if that didn't work, I would use my parents as an excuse. My parents said no. And if they ask why, honestly, like if I said I'm busy and they would ask why, I would just be like, because I'm busy. Because again, if it's an unhealthy situation, then you don't owe them an explanation. Don't feel bad. Again, that's a skill that will take time, and practice to get used to, but you don't owe them anything. You don't owe them an explanation. But if they are somebody that it isn't unhealthy with, then I guess it all depends on the situation. So for me, my primary concern when saying no, I'm kind of past the point of, being afraid that they'd hate me or caring that someone would hate me or, feeling like a mean or selfish person for saying no. I have gotten past that. It's hard to get past, but I have. So my primary concern now is that it has no effect on them, because I've been in situations before where I've said no and they've done what they wanted anyway and they got what they wanted anyway, and me saying no had no power over anyone. I don't know, I think it all really depends on the situation. Like, if it's a more violent situation, again, that I couldn't avoid, or I don't know if I could say no, because, again, I hate to use such simplistic terms, but if I know I'm outmatched or it's a situation that I'm not going to be able to handle on my own, then I'd rather, again, if it's a violent situation, then I'll just be like, what gives me power is letting people know. Like, if I know something's gonna happen, or, if I'm talking to somebody or whatever that's making me uncomfortable, I'll text somebody or I'll let people know. And then I'll kind of use that against the person and be like, look, my friends agree, this is a really shitty situation, and this is, my family, everyone agrees, that what's going on here is bad, or what you're doing is bad. And I feel like the whole point of taking control and getting control back is knowing that you have support, because that support gives you strength to say no in a sense. So I don't know if I'd be able to say no outright, but I know maybe I could if if someone knew that the situation was happening. But if it were, again, it's not, I'm not trying to say it's easier when it's somebody that it's not a violent situation with, because I feel like sometimes it's even harder to say no to people you care about. I just be like, look, I can't right now. I can't do this right now. I think, giving short, dry answers to people who are asking things of you that you are uncomfortable with or can't do, I don't think it's a bad thing. And I think, again, it takes time. But again, the whole point of this is what I'm trying to say is it takes practice saying no. And not all my excuses, or not all my answers rather, are going to be the right answers for you. But maybe listening to my answers will help you find your own answer. Because again, this is an activity I want you guys to follow along with. So, yeah.